जो भी है, okay, so we're good. Ayub isn't here with us, but we have the president of Weird Dudes, so that should be fine. Let's
Fair
start.
enough.
Oh my god. So yeah, are we good? Yeah, we're okay. Horrible color, but yeah, now we're good. Pay and rate of inflation. So basically, probably wages and rate of inflation का सवाल type stuff होंगे. Oh my god. You okay? So in the UK, in the last 3 months of 2014, the employment rate was at a record high. Okay, nice employment rate there. And total pay had its highest increase since before the world financial crisis. Basically, so after 2008, 2009-ish, right? Um,
Hmm.
and this is, we're talking about 2014, Abhi. Total pay, regular pay plus bonuses rose by an average of 2.1% between October and December 2014. This was partly because of a large growth in bonus payments in the private sector. सही है? Private sector bonus payments दे रहा है, and they're calling total pay this, but the regular pay plus bonuses.
Performances.
सही है? So average weekly regular pay rose by 1.7% in that period, so that also rose. Total pay increased by more, but average weekly pay also increased. Private sector total pay rose by an average of 2.5, while
Hmm.
workers who were employed in the public sector saw average total pay growth of only 0.7%. Bichare, because government controls over pay and an absence. So their government controls over pay. That's one reason, and they don't have any bonuses. So sad life for them.
Bonuses.
Uh, by comparison, annual inflation fell to 0.5%. Chalo, but I mean, inflation. This is still like, in case anyone's confused, this is still like increase in prices, but like the deflation nahi hai,
But
inflation.
waste less.
Exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
In December 2014 and to 0.3% in January 2015, meaning the rate of inflation is decreasing. So prices are still increasing, but at a decreasing rate. The Prime Minister said that high employment, stronger productivity, and low inflation rates are key matters helping economic recovery and an increase in living standards. सही है. However, while total hours worked grew by 0.8% in the last 3 months of 2014, GDP growth was 0.5%, implying that output per head fell over the quarter. Okay, and the increased employment was not boosting labor productivity. This is not good for a long-term improvement in living standards, even if inflation is very low. The chief executive
Fair enough.
of an oil company said that oil companies will have to adapt to a new era of lower prices and greater emphasis on reducing carbon emissions. मतलब आ गए आपके environmentalists, in order
Hmm.
to survive. तो मतलब कह रहे हैं कि oil company को अपनी price कम करनी पड़ेगी, or they'll have to be more eco-friendly. This is already happening by way of short-term market forces as cost of production come down, but long-term structural changes will be needed. His remarks came after two international oil companies announced large reductions in both fixed and variable costs as oil prices fell by 50% in the last 6 months of 2014 amid a surplus of supply and reduced demand. Obviously, if supply goes up and if demand goes down, either way, you'd get a reduction in prices, which is what we have seen here. Good scene. And इधर दिखाया है UK pay growth and inflation 2018 to 15. So total pay growth, regular pay growth, inflation. This is interesting. इधर पता नहीं क्या होता total pay को. नहीं, this is a total pay growth. अच्छा, my bad. So if it's
Hmm.
above zero,
Zero. It's technically increasing.
yeah, it's increasing. If it's below zero, that means it's actually decreasing. So it
नहीं,
total,
wait. तो
yeah.
मतलब ग्रोथ, हाँ सही है, सही है.
हाँ, मतलब
Fair enough.
think of it like inflation, right? Um,
हाँ.
if it's in the positive तो increase हो रहा है, अगर negative में है तो it would be decreasing. Okay,
Fair enough.
so yep, so yeah, so good with the case study, should not nothing too difficult about that. इधर थोड़ी सी शायद टेंशन हो कि this bit to this bit, where they say that total hours worked grew by 0.8%. However, GDP growth was 0.5%, implying that output per head fell over the quarter. Meaning because they worked more hours, when they increased the total hours worked by 0.8, लेकिन उसका नतीजा बस 0.5 मिला. Like it wasn't even equal. So
I think they are implying कि उनकी overall productivity कम हुई है.
yeah.
लेकिन at the same time क्या कहते हैं, output बढ़ा है लेकिन उतना नहीं बढ़ा जितना बढ़ना चाहिए.
True. So let's see what the questions. So that's what I like about if it's A2 case studies, at least the ones I see, few parts. So the article says that public sector workers had an average pay increase 0.7 compared with a 2.5% increase for private sector workers. So we only have to state दो marks ही हैं, so really don't have to explain anything either. State two reasons given in the information for this. So this is basically just your comprehension skills. Let's just highlight two. Why private sector workers की increase pay rose by a greater percentage. I think we already did something like this. So because so one of this was because government controls over pay, that's why. And the second reason they gave was this was a very concrete reason, absence of bonuses, because I believe they are talking about total pay.
Yes.
Average increase in pay. Yeah. Well, they're talking about so here they said total pay, meaning these figures are about total pay, which includes bonuses. So I think यही दो reasons हैं. I think these are the two reasons. Let's check the marking scheme. What does it have to say for itself? Any two, no bonuses in public sector, we got that. Private sector had bonuses, so this increases differential. I mean, like, come on, like, so basically, if you just wrote public sector में bonus नहीं है and private sector में bonus है, so you would get 2 marks. Like, government policy to control economy, inflation. We did highlight that this government has controls over pay. अगर इसे थोड़ा से better develop करते कि why does it have controls just to control the economy or inflation, which we basically did. So easy 2 marks there. The next one is in 2014, despite a rise in earnings, both regular pay and real total pay have fallen since 2008. Use figure 1 to determine whether or not this is true. So बोला है कि 2014 में earnings have increased, but both regular pay and real total pay have gradually fallen since 2008. Okay, I'm not too I don't know what they mean by earnings then.
I guess
GDP,
gross payment and real payment. That's what I think. Gross payment rise हुई है, but probably because of inflation, उनकी regular pay या total pay जो है वो fall हुई है.
Both regular real total have actually fallen. Okay, we have to use figure 1.1 to definitely refer to that, and let's see, have fallen since 2008. If you look, so it is, sorry, what was the 2014 here, 2008 regular pay growth, inflation. Yeah, most probably कि आपका growth ही इधर तो growth ही बारे में नहीं किया, but they've talked about real total pay, so that we can link with inflation. Regular pay, why maybe they're talking about real regular pay as well, because both have gradually fallen. So or maybe regular pay normal wali. This is like without just being adjusted to inflation. They're talking about that, and then they're talking about real total pay, uh, which could be explained by regular pay गिर गई आपकी, but आपकी earnings पे भी रही because bonuses, but but that's your total pay. But the real total pay it wasn't that much because inflation. Okay, let's look at the diagram. Hopefully that'll make things clear. Let's just look at total pay and inflation, because total pay को हमें real निकालना है. So total pay took a hit here, then it went ये चलो, but inflation was more or less like almost always above total pay. So total pay was technically, if it's growing by like, if this is total pay, it's growing by like 2 point, it was growing by 3%. Inflation was growing by around 5% at the time. So आपकी real total pay में, in fact, if this is like 5% and if this is like 3%, real total pay would be minus 2%. Like in fact, it would be decreasing. So which is why it would gradually, when this happens and consistently, आपकी real total pay, अगर आप real के terms में देखना चाहो, when that is a negative, and it will be a negative when inflation is above the total pay. When inflation growth rate is above total pay growth, it should be in negative. So that is definitely one thing. I'm not gonna. I don't think we need to write this.
Not really, just marking on the graph.
Yeah, exactly. And both regular. Now let's look at regular pay. So regular pay has fallen. Where is regular pay? Regular pay was here. Iska growth, it goes like, it never really goes into negative though. So I mean, it has gradually fallen. In 2008 में ये थी, regular pay अभी इधर है, but it doesn't say real regular pay. So like, I'm not sure if we're taking inflation into account. Maybe this is about bonuses.
बोनसेस यस में रेगुलर पे उन्होंने डिफाइन ऐसे किया है, लेकिन इफ यू स्टिल सी, क्योंकि वो फिगर 1 को रेफर कर रहा है, तो इन्फ्लेशन उसमें अकाउंट पर होगी. एंड अगर तुम दोनों को देखोगे तो दोनों का गैप मतलब पहले वाइडन होता जाता है 2014 तक, उसके बाद फिर कम.
I agree with you, but if they had written either उन्होंने real regular pay लिखा होता, I would have agreed with you कि हाँ, that's where we should focus. But they've written regular pay goes down and real total pay goes down. So we know why real total pay goes down, because उधर हमने inflation से निकाल लिया. But they haven't written real pay. I don't think they. Well, we can check the marketing scheme after we're done brainstorming, but I don't think that's really their focus. Maybe if you look at it from I mean, from this perspective, कि इसको तो we don't need this. But if total pay is regular pay plus bonuses, and we're not looking at real because उन्होंने बस regular pay मांगा है, सही. So the inflation को अगर हम नहीं देख रहे, you can see this, right?
Yeah.
And we're saying that your overall earnings went up, सही है. मतलब real की तो अलग बात है, but overall earnings went up, but your regular pay went down. Maybe it's because आपके bonuses went up, which was seen. So
That's true.
I mean, so then it would make your answer somewhat that for the case of real total pay, the reasoning here would be, the growth rate of this below the inflation rate. So, total pay, so total pay increased while real total pay decreased, and you could give a reference to a particular figure in the diagram. And for regular pay decreased, but bonuses increased, so earnings increased. Maybe this could be your answer. And when you make some references to the diagram, should be enough to get marks. Let's check the marking scheme. ये थोड़ा सा अजीब सा question था. Okay, so no truth. Question क्या था? Oh, sorry, whether or not this is true. So we have to figure this out. It's no truth, which is not true, although no truth. Regular pay always rising. Chart shows rate, not absolute amount. Rose at different rates. Up to 2 marks for real pay fell except in 2008, small part of 2010 and end of 2014. So we slightly misread the question. The question was not explain why this is happening. The question was, is this happening or not? So to slightly correct ourselves, पूछा है कि ये दो fall हो रहे हैं या नहीं हो रहे हैं, like this statement is true or not. And for real total pay, that the statement is true because of inflation वाली चीज. For regular pay, the statement is not true because regular pay की अगर आप plot देखो, it's the rate has always been above zero. Yeah. So we don't need to come up with weird explanations with bonuses. This is fine. So you get 1 mark for identifying whether it's true or not. 1 mark, 1 to 2 marks for this, for regular, and 2 marks for real pay, which is really, yeah, which is really not that difficult had we read the question properly. हो जाता है. Okay. So in January 2015, sorry, my bad. January 2015, the workforce of an oil company demanded a pay increase. Okay. How could the company use the evidence from the information to oppose this demand? So to oppose this demand, so they want to basically try to keep, try to not give in to this demand, and they need to use evidence from the information above. So we have to look for some information that indicates that something of the sort, how actual purchasing power, how real wage has not decreased, probably. Let's find out with green. Okay, so, and this was for an oil company, yeah, in 2015. So diagrammatically, if you look at 2015, UK pay growth. So, well, things aren't looking very good. It was like regular pay growth has normally been below the inflation rate. What they could make use of is this segment here. For the last 6 months before 2015, this is your inflation rate, and this is your regular pay and total pay. So it's above the inflation rate, meaning there is your real wage is still increasing, and obviously this is still above the 0%. So that's one thing they can use. I don't know. The second thing they might be able to use is, खुद बेचारे बन जाएं कि oil prices have fallen because of demand supply conditions, which means it is difficult for themselves to increase wages. I mean,
and also, Hassan, they have to.
Sorry?
I'm saying they have to reduce carbon emissions, so obviously their cost will automatically go up. So maybe they can use this, that because they have a much more responsibility to environment, that's why they can't obviously increase that cost and also the cost to the laborers.
Okay. So idea is basically they have carbon emissions prices भी उनको कम करनी है, and lower prices come by lower costs and all, and carbon emissions को reduce करने में वो तो all भी मसले होते हैं, and they have to do this in order to survive. So they won't survive if they don't do this, which means that they that they can use that as a bargaining chip to bargain with labor, because obviously that indicates that they can't very easily increase the wage rates. However, the main things perhaps is probably here. So last 3 months of 2014, timeline be perfect here because this was happening in 2015. We've seen GDP growth 0.5%, but हमने काम ज़्यादा किया. The idea is that labor productivity was not increasing. In fact, it was decreasing. And if labor productivity has decreased, that really go? I mean, like for workers to negotiate higher wages, they normally want to show higher productivity. If the employer can show that आपकी productivity ही नहीं बढ़ रही, आप किस मुंह से wage मांग रहे हो, that could be something they could use. And if we look here, demanded a pay increase. Okay, so we were discussing part C.
Yes.
Ouch. Sorry, part C. Yeah. So we've highlighted a few things, and the idea is need to identify stuff that pokes holes in the workers' arguments for increasing wage. And we've identified a few things. Let's just formalize it. Okay. So the first thing we identified, let's start with the most important. In fact, the most important was how last 3 quarters of 2014, the productivity of labor decreased. And you can use the figures that, I mean, if you want to refer to them, like 0.5% to increase in total work hours, like in the total work hours increased by 0.5, 0.8%, but the GDP didn't rise by as much. Although so that could be one thing. And like इसको तो further develop कर सकते हो that pay rises only cost effective for firm if productivity goes up, that is the MRP of labor increases, so that overall so that they can still make the same or similar profit. And if you want, you could even draw a diagram over here about MRP, which is, and MC. If you want to draw it for the individual firm, so this is like you just basically your wage rate. So you'd be पहले आप इधर कर रहे होते आप you'd be paying this much, but if MC increases, and you want some sort of a subsequent increase in MRP, okay. Another thing we identified was from figure 1 that in 2015 at least, the the growth rate of total pay was greater than the inflation rate, and it was above 0 as well, the growth rate, so that means it's growing. So real total pay is growing, so there's no real need to negotiate for increased pay. And if I think we identified something else as well about the price of oil falling, due to demand supply conditions, 50% fall ho gayi, and just the in pressure to survive, etc., all of that, how An increase in pay is not feasible at the time, costs for the firm either. So let's see, unless you guys had something to add.
हाँ आई गेस दैट्स इट मतलब वो जो प्राइस वाला है उस पे कार्बन एमिशंस वाला भी आप एक्सटेंड कर देंगे
Yeah,
यही है
yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so if you, that's basically need to reduce, carbon emissions, which increase costs,
Yes.
so, can't afford a further increase in costs. I mean, because if you're using stuff like carbon caps or stuff like that, you're probably going to be suffering from higher costs by trying to reduce carbon emissions. Okay, so wages always rising. Okay. Uh, yeah. I don't fully understand what they mean by wages always rising. Well, yeah, they were above zero. I mean, yeah, the real wage wasn't always rising, but okay, you can write that wages always rising. In 2015, wage growth was higher um, than inflation, which is, yeah, that's something we got right. Inflation down, productivity down, employment up, oil sales down. बोलना क्या चाह रहे हैं ये लोग?
आई गेस ऑयल सेल्स
इतने
में जो ये
सिंपलिस्टिक
प्राइस वाली बात
स्टेटमेंट्स है
है
यार लाइक
Oil sales वाली चीज तो oil sales वाली चीज तो we covered, price of oil come, how the firm is itself struggling to survive. Inflation down, productivity down. I guess this is linking to labor productivity, how इधर जब हमने decrease in inflation देखा भी, productivity in fact fell. I don't know what they mean by employment up. I mean if they're employing more, so they
ऐसा ना एक्सट्रैक्ट में लिखा हुआ है they were employed more but even though they were employed more productivity has fell मतलब मेरे ख्याल से वो उसकी बात कर रहे हैं if you go to the case study
yeah
उसमें ऊपर करो in the third paragraph इसमें if you see however while total hours worked as an employment is technically increased because the total hours that are worked are more. I think that's what they're trying to imply.
Okay. So kind of similar to what we were saying. But okay, interesting marking scheme. I think we got the crux of that though, to our best ability at least. And now we have the final. This is a long one. Discuss why inflation and the rate of growth of total pay are significant economic indicators. Okay, so well, again with case study, there's not that much to like that much formalization जितनी आपकी section B में होती है, but if 8 mark है फिर भी थोड़ा सा हमें करना पड़ेगा ढंग का आंसर इसमें तो. So I think we should start off by first like sort of identifying when something can be a significant economic indicator, like if it if it can indicate where you are in achieving your macroeconomic goals. So like if it affects or is indicative of employment, of let's say of your level of AD, for example, helps in BOP, stuff like that. Inflation to directly price stability bhi jata hai. So like if you guys agree with me, I'd say we go with something can be a significant economic indicator where it is indicative of the progress, I guess, an economy has made towards some macroeconomic goal, like price stability, like full employment, like economic growth, stuff like that. And then you just take one by one. Inflation को अगर आप देखो, inflation definitely directly the price stability so the बहुत direct link है with like that's a very large macroeconomic goal, and other macroeconomic goals to link inflation, say, you know, you can link it to AD, which you can link to employment, you know, and economic growth. You can link this to your BOP through, you know, through exports and imports, how exports become less competitive and imports become relatively cheap, so on. Anything else you guys can think of?
I guess inflation, if it's a cost push inflation, तो आपका output भी कम हो जाता है. So technically, it would also decrease the output and the economic growth.
So type of inflation matters if it's cost push. So that above we probably, you know, AD के बारे में that's mainly demand pulls type stuff. Like if it's demand pull, so cost push है inflation. So that could in fact reduce your output and national income, you know, that could be reduced, which could be indicative of, let's say, not that good, of lower living standards maybe. Okay.
Can you also write in aggregate demand wale mein about how it will have a multiplier effect on national income? Doesn't connect if you connect the multiplier.
So yeah, in fact I always so AD से अगर हम जाएं to national income, so multiplied effect on national income, just employment, economic growth, etc. That's good. Anything else with inflation? Probably would have to write 4 marks worth of it for just inflation. We could even link inflation with wages, but the inflation's linked with wage doesn't really makes that much sense with how it's a good economic indicator. जैसे वैसे बीओपी की जब भी बात करें तो लाइक स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ करेंसी की भी बात आ जाती है वैसे बिकॉज yeah, I think we're good with this.
हाँ, I guess ये 3 marks का ही होगा क्योंकि अगर ऊपर हमने आइडेंटिफाई किए तो उसके 2 marks होंगे थे.
वैसे मैंने आइडेंटिफाई किया है बट आई डोंट थिंक उसके लिए मार्क्स हैं. लाइक इट्स नॉर्मली ये केस स्टडी में they're just very point to point. Yeah, so but like we have to still remain on the safe side. Okay, so let's take a different color. In fact, let's talk about rate of growth of total pay. So, you know, rate of growth of total pay, significant economic indicators. So I mean, एक तो right off the bat, this is like income basically, right, for households. Like if you just look at pay, that is normally proportional to higher living standards, you know, and with regards to GDP per head, etc. Like if people generally are, if the rate of growth of total pay is high, people are getting paid more, easy to believe that they'll have higher living standards. And that could be linked to increased consumption, I believe. You know, link it to AD, link it to multiplied effect on national income. So that's, you know, higher output, higher employment, you know, basically economic growth bhi aapki ho gayi, at least actual growth ho gayi, which is a one type of economic growth, and you definitely at least have moved towards the goal of higher of full employment. So that's something. वैसे कंजम्पशन की इंक्रीज से मोस्ट प्रोबब्ली मल्टीप्लायर इफेक्ट होगा नहीं. My bad.
But
because consumption is not an autonomous variable, multiplier effects to my you know knowledge, I think autonomous के साथ ही होते हैं.
Only autonomous.
Yeah. So rate of what else? What like फायदा क्या है? Rate of growth of, I mean, but total pay से और क्या हो सकता है?
I guess we can also write about minor micro objectives, right? कि मतलब आपकी health या education, all of these things also improve. So, मतलब
I'm,
वैसे major macroeconomic goals नहीं होते किसी country के, लेकिन minor होते हैं to improve the health conditions, to improve क्या कहते हैं education. But फिर हमने अगर living standard लिख दिया है, लेकिन फिर हमें सिर्फ GDP का करना होगा living standard, and उसके बाद education वगैरह का अलग लिखना होगा.
I mean, I think you can just link it into one. Like you can elaborate on it, um, but I mean, elaborate कितना करोगे उसमें maybe 2 mark ही मिलेंगे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा. Um, I mean, a significant economic indicators. Can we say that higher that higher wages can be indicative of higher productivity at times?
Not necessarily.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay.
Yes and no.
Maybe let's just still write it. Higher wages might.
But Asan, since it's a case study thing, don't you think you're actually contradicting what's written up there about how even if the wages rose, the productivity is actually not no, but actually productivity is also risen. So I guess you can write that.
The, oh, okay. Wait. Let's refer back to the case study. Although I don't think it has any link to the case study, but फिर भी क्या था case study में? ये तो nothing really relevant. Bonuses are key. So Prime Minister that high employment, stronger productivity, and low inflation rates are key matters helping economic recovery and an increasing living standards. Okay. Well, not really that much. But the one thing I think we can point out, maybe it would be credited, is how rate of growth of total pay, rather than regular pay. How total pay is more of a significant indicator than regular pay because it takes bonuses into account. Sorry, not accounts. I mean, like, because you've written कि अच्छा pay से क्या क्या फायदा होता है. I mean, if you want to stretch it, pay and income could link to your BOP as well. With regards to imports, normally countries where your average income is high, they tend to be importing more higher standards of living and so on. Do you think we can include that?
I think so, because, but then it would affect negatively, वैसे तो. Again, we need
that's
indicator.
That's fine. Higher imports, negative effect on your BOP, but that is why it's a significant economic indicator, right?
Right.
So moves BOT/BOP towards deficit, which and which obviously downward pressure on exchange rate as well. So chalo, we do have, and I say it says discuss. I am not too sure whether we have to provide a two-sided answer or any sort of conclusion. I mean, like, it's not discuss whether, it's discuss why. Like, ये क्यों है? Like,
I guess we should provide conclusion. If I'm writing the answer, then I'll probably provide conclusion about how inflation and rate of growth of total pay are actually interlinked as well, right? जो तुम पहले भी उसके बारे में बात कर रहे थे कि growth rate से भी inflation में फर्क आता है, because if pay rises, people buy more and increases AT and then technically increases inflation. So maybe their connection to some sort.
Okay, I mean, like, so interconnectedness. I don't know if that's the word. Connectivity. Like, yeah. So like, you could link inflation and total pay growth and conclude that only when both are taken into account do either individual one can act as a significant economic indicator. Like taking rate of growth without taking inflation rate into account is slightly incomplete because you don't have your real rate of growth of sorry, the rate of growth of real total pay. You know, this is especially for total pay. You know, inflation rate से आपका real total pay आ जाता है.
True.
So rate which is a more but I don't think there's really anything else to conclude. Let's go to the marking scheme, I suggest. Up to 2 marks for each relevant comment. Well, okay, whoa, kya baat hai. Comments on effect on, acha, so in चीजों का effect on demand, expenditure, GDP, international competitiveness, that's good. Employment rates, so I think we basically covered demand and expenditure. GDP भी हमने थोड़ा सा cover किया. The international competitiveness basically, you know, wherever we said BOP, that's what we meant by this, because when we say inflation say exports come on, we mean inflation say export price is increasing, its competitiveness is decreasing, so the export revenue will decrease, net exports will decrease. Obviously when you're actually writing it, so you'll make all those links. And the same thing with wages, where wages to the international competitiveness. We could have linked we could have linked wage rate to international competitiveness and so on, because that's basically an important cost. Employment rates we didn't really cover, but again, you don't have to cover all. Basically, you get 2 marks for a relevant comment. So it's slightly difficult to check it ourselves, but I think this was somewhat, you know, along the lines of what we would write even after checking the marking scheme. The only thing I'd add, you know, either you know, wages say, well, let me just type it out. Wages say आपकी, you know, cost of production vary करती है. So, you know, in international competitiveness, that's the only thing I think I would want to add. Are we good? Hello? Okay, so we're so good. Amar is already gone. And yeah, that's pretty much it with case study. Again, the basic idea is not to overwrite. If you get the question and then to read the question again, because it's very easy to misunderstand what the question is actually asking, like we did in part B. So try to avoid doing that. And apart from that, just try to conserve as much time as possible in the case study, because if you take more than 45 minutes to do case study, then you will only have 45 minutes for the 2 questions you have in section B. Yes, that's it.